Hey everyone, welcome back. We are here again with another video today. We're going to be looking at Lavos' new augment, Valence something. I don't remember the other half, but basically it is an augment for his passive, which means you can't use it on anybody else. And it's actually kind of interesting. So let's get into looking on the build because it's easier for me to explain that way. You probably, if you've played Lavos before, you know that each one of his abilities has an element tied to it, and tapping casts the abilities, but holding down will infuse your next ability cast with said element, being Toxin from his first, Cold from his second, Electric from his third, Heat from his fourth, and that you can hold up to 2 of these down in succession or same time to make combined elements. That's the whole crux on how his new augment works. So, it's not just these primary 4 elements. You can pick any mixture of elements you want from holding down. It has to be held down. So, at the bottom of the screen, whatever element picture appears up is what you will infuse onto your weapons. This 200% elemental damage does not scale with strength. However, the duration scales with duration. And since this augment, when I was playing around with it, what I will say is you only use this for a weapon platform build. So without Valence formation, you're playing primarily an ability nuke Lavos. This completely changes things up and allows you to get whatever elements you want on your weapon. So TLDR, if you're playing catalyzed nuke, don't use this. If you're playing weapon nuke, always use this. Now, you can only infuse one element on. If you try to infuse a new element by casting an ability after you've infused, then it will override the previous infusion. So say like, oh, I wanted viral from combining my 1 and my 2, and I go, cha, hit something with my 1. Now my weapons deal viral procs as well. What if I want to change to corrosive and I merge my 1 and my 3 and then cast again? Well, now I have only corrosive and I no longer have the viral. So it overrides. The other interesting thing about this that's not known unless you played around with it is 1, these are force procs. So not only does it grant 200% elements as a buff to your weapon, it also grants force procs on every single hit. However, it works different from Toxin, Lash, and other situations. It only applies to direct hits, so anything that is an AoE, be it projectile AoE or hit scan AoE, and this includes slam attacks, because slam attacks, the new variants, fall under hit scan AoE, all of those ignore the force proc from this augment. So, if we can extend this a little bit further, I won't go back into test right now, you'll see it when I'm in mission, but people remember the Flux rifle, the Tenet version, being kind of fun and cool, especially because Flux Overdrive gave it a lot of status, but Combustion Beam allowed you to chain reaction kill stuff, and on Saren, the explosion would proc Toxin Lash and propagate across a corpus crowd in a room, kill everything off. Saren's Toxin Lash procs off Combustion Beam. Valence formations, Toxin procs, or whatever elements do not proc off of this. As I said, it does not work with AoEs. So, you're basically stuck with single target with one single exception. Also, for you smart ones out there, no, it doesn't work with Shido's reload either. I tried. But, how about an AoE without it being an AoE? Melee influence. So, yes, the procs shot or targeted from your direct melee hits created by Valence formation are spread through melee influence. Which is interesting because remember how I said that Lavos can make any of the 4 primary elements or secondary elements. You know what that means. You can mod Pure Electric. You can combine his 1 and 3 to get corrosive. And then buff your melee with corrosive, and now you have electric, which is able to proc this and stack dots, but also corrosive to fully strip armor off with emerald shards. Is it a bit copium? The reasoning is a little bit, but it works extremely well, just as good as Amalgam Argonac type builds, and also does not restrict you to using daggers. Most interestingly, the reason why I picked Vastilok here is every single pellet from Vastilok separately procs status from Lavos's augment. So it is one of the best ways to do it. Let's head right into mission, beat this hotfix, and see how it works, so I can show you in person on what we are doing. we're going to go with Conjunction Survival. Once again, because, well, it's the highest easy level access I have in here, where I just have a bunch of hordes of enemies coming my way. Can I hack this, please? Thank you very much. So notice how right now I deal just electric, right? And this is the combo cancel on high noon, going E forward, E forward, E. So if I buff myself with 1 and 3, now I have corrosive, I can hit enemies like this. If I hit them now, look, I'm getting corrosive and electric procs. And all of that is being spread through melee influence, instantly shredding armor and instantly killing everything. So this is probably the best use case of on a Vastilok, where you only need light attacks so you can take benefit from weeping wounds. However, do keep in mind, any melee weapon in the entire game can work with Lavos this way, even if it doesn't hit multiple times. You just put electric on, and then you infuse corrosive by going 3 in your 1. And notice, right up here, when I cast this, 50 seconds. That's why I built 250 duration, so that you just don't need to worry about it. It's a nice little cheap build so that you can kill everything that you need. Just be wary, remember that you cannot adjust the amount of elements it gives by strength. So this means that it's always going to be 200% of whatever you buff on, which can dilute down your electric procs. And you'll see when I show you the build at the end of this video. Don't worry, I don't mind, I forgot to show it before we went in. Feel free to skip to the end if you want. But that this Vastilok both uses the 90% electric mod and the 60%, so I can get 150% and improve my odds of activating melee influence again. Because, well, the build only really works when I have it active, but also higher electric weight also means higher odds of proccing electric to deal .DPS, as well as buffing the amount of damage each dot tick will deal. So now let's look at a different one. I had my Ocucor here, because of course you'd mod it for, say, like, corrosive, right? Like, it's normal to mod this thing for a corrosive. Well, alternatively, you have a couple of options. I went for pure heat, because I can subsume corrosive, well, not subsume, but buff it with Lavos, which means I can get bigger heat weight now for bigger heat damage. Remember to use Prime Heated Charge, because you're trying your best to offset the 200% corrosive that I'm adding on here. And now we can just very, very easily remove all armor from everything. And, well, I don't really have to stop shooting, because the buff lasts for 50 seconds. And it's a force proc, too. So yeah, there you go. Not that bad, right? As you can see, this augment turns a weapon platform Lavos into an absolute beast, where he can make anything produce a huge amount of status effects, and has particularly good synergy with Emerald Shards, or also melee influence strats. Now for the last choice, as remember what I said in the past, that this does not work with AoE speed, hit scan, or projectiles. For example, I have a Flux rifle here. So let's buff this with corrosive, right? Now I've refreshed my buff, as you can see up there. If I hit these enemies... Oh, I get the explosion. Whoops, let me heal up because I have that set. I'll show you again after. But like, if I kill enemies with this, I get the explosions, but it doesn't deal corrosive in the AoE. The enemies still have armor. So, this is the reminder that it does not work with any kind of AoE hitboxes at all in game, unless it's by proxy, where melee influence taxis it by proxy because the AoE source is not the weapon itself. But yes, that's what I guess we can say to learn from here on how it works. This probably will make Lavos a bit more interesting for those that always wanted to try him but prefer playing with guns and don't like messing with his ability rotations all the time, because all you really need here is just infuse corrosive, or say if you want instead viral, you would mix your 1 and your 2 and then cast any of your abilities, and now, well, now you have viral for 50 seconds on your weapons too instead, which means you no longer have to mod it. Or if you just want heat, then you'd have to keep Catalyze available, you would hold down your 4, which I don't have because I have Air Burst on this build, and then just cast any ability. Now you infuse your weapons with 200% heat. So truly an extremely flexible setup for weapon platform builds. It seems like this entire update, Augments have catered towards status-related stuff. You have Nezha spreading status, you have Lavos with Force Proc status, choose your own elements, you have Loki reflecting 3 random status effects, you have, what was the other one? Oh, Citrine, allowing you to get the extra crits, but like spreading all of the crystals all over the place, and she's a status-based frame. The loadout would also want high range, which makes her Prismatic Gem have insane hitbox. But yes, it's time for us to leave. I want to show you what we were running on our builds again, right? Because I forgot to mention it in advance. I'm terribly sorry. But we can take a very, very quick look. So let's make it over here. Alright. Whoops, I got debated. That wasn't the actual extract pad. That always gets me in this tile set a little bit, actually. It's another one done for today. Don't worry. I know you guys are waiting and you're probably going to be coming in to stream to ask me. I will be taking a look at Dante next after this. I already have builds in mind and stat splits I want to build for it to test. So, let's go take a look at the weapons. First up, the Vastilok. So on the Lavos, I wanted to run the arcanes to make whatever you're using more comfortable to use, be it pistols, precision, velocity, melees like this, fury, and strike. So I offloaded healing return onto the actual weapon because we already have enough damage by full stripping them this way. The reason why this is super useful is that every status effect inflicted both by your weapon and through melee influence will activate healing return. So say like if I shoot this once and I proc one status effect, but I hit 10 enemies because of melee influence, I will proc this 10 times. And remember, Vastilok is actually a shotgun, which is the reason why it works so well. It shoots 9 pellets, and remember, we force proc Lavos' infused element. So let's say we land all 9 procs. That's 9 corrosive procs, notwithstanding electric procs. Just corrosive alone, 9. Let's say melee influence has 10 other enemies in the radius, so that's 90 hits. I just procced healing return 90 times in one shot. You want to know how much health that is? 990. So that's why we have this here. It's an instant top up, and I outsourced instead the armor directly onto him. This is the sample build I was testing with. Because we're using him as a weapon platform, then strength, as I mentioned, does not scale into Valence Fusion at all. Hey, Scorpion Bit, thank you for the follow. I can't mute my alert sounds. I forgot to do that in advance. But yes, so the only thing that matters here really is our status. This also extends the status duration of anything inflicted from your kit, which is really, really good. Keep your efficiency neutral so you can reduce the cooldowns of your kit when you cast your 1 or your 3 in case you screw up. You don't need to build for it, but I would not go negative. Range is handy so that you can just tag enough enemies with these if you want to prime or trigger the cooldown cutbacks. This air burst, as I mentioned, is just here from an old relic build. If you want heat, then keep catalyzed and get rid of something else. But normally I would consider having access to corrosive or emerald shards, or having access to viral with cold and Ophidian bite for toxin cold is a lot more useful. So most builds I would get rid of is for if you want to go Valence formation weapon platform. But yeah, that's what we're running for Lavos today. For the Ocucor, it's very stock. You can see here, the only difference is instead of running the 260-60 Toxin and Electric mods to get Corrosive Heat with main heat weight, I instead ran another heat mod so I can compete with the 200% Corrosive Infusion from Valence, and then Prime Pistol Gambit to bump up my base damage more. Crit chance. My base damage comes from Galvanized Shot and Cascadia Flare for roughly about plus 700 to 800%, so I don't need to worry about Hornet Strike. But yeah, as I always say, hopefully that information was useful for you today. A like and comments always goes a long way to helping our channel. I appreciate you all for stopping by, or better yet, feel free to subscribe. We're definitely going to be looking at Dante next, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.